जी, अपॉइंटमेंट्स आपको फोन पर, वीडियो चैट पर भी हो सकते हैं।
If you're being busy, running your busy business, let AC Tax Services plan for your future and account for your past. AC Tax Services can take care of it all. Year-end accounts, tax returns, PAYE and payroll, along with experienced proactive advice and planning to help your business grow. Call 0191 249 8720 or find AC, that's ACC, Tax Services on Facebook. AC Tax Services, your local accountants and tax advisors.
The COVID-19 vaccination programme will be the biggest in the history of the NHS. Across the North East and North Cumbria, thousands of people will be vaccinated at our dedicated COVID-19 vaccination centres. To make it happen, your NHS needs your help. There are hundreds of new jobs and volunteering opportunities available at locations across the region. Visit covidvaccinejobs.nenc.com now to see how you can play your part in fighting the virus.
Oh, Kaz was upset and I didn't know what to say.
Jenny was great. She just listened.
4 hours to get to the coast.
I got to see the sea.
And I burnt Kaz's birthday cake.
That cake was rank, but making it was wicked.
As a foster carer, your bad day could be their best day. The Children's Family Trust are not-for-profit and offer real support for their carers.
Apply for the world's most rewarding career.
Search the Children's Family Trust.
नमस्कार, एक विशेष सूचना गर्भवती स्त्रियों के लिए जो NHS ENI की तरफ से दी जाती है। साक्ष्य बताते हैं कि गर्भवती स्त्रियों में विटामिन डी की कमी होती है जो कोविड-19 की चपेट में आ सकती है। इसीलिए ये सलाह दी जाती है कि गर्भवती स्त्रियां प्रतिदिन 10 माइक्रोग्राम विटामिन डी की गोली लें। ये दवाएं सुपरमार्केट और फार्मेसी के काउंटर पर उपलब्ध है। गर्भावस्था के दौरान विटामिन डी लेना बहुत सुरक्षित है। ये सलाह NHS की तरफ से दी जाती है। अगर आपको अपने या नवजात शिशु के स्वास्थ्य तो आप जल्द से जल्द मैटरनिटी यूनिट से संपर्क करें जहां आपने अपने बच्चे की बुकिंग की है। ये सूचना भी आपको NHS ENI की तरफ से दी जाती है। अधिक जानकारी के लिए कम्युनिटी मिडवाइफ या GP से संपर्क करें।
For the community, by the community. Spice FM 98.8 FM.
Good morning, listeners. Jalf, you're on mute. You're on mute.
There you go.
There you go. That's the most popular phrase of 2020.
How to unmutate myself.
You are on mute. Did you know that?
Not really, because I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. Haven't been using Zoom as much as everybody else has, for sure.
Yeah, so it's it's incredible how popular and unpopular that catchphrase has become. And it's a catchphrase. It's almost like you're on mute. Anyway, good morning. You're listening to Ammar and
Jalf.
Live on our weekly radio show right here on Spice FM and across all of the digital platforms.
And each week we're going to bring you some views, news, and 1 or 2 clues from the business world.
Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider communities.
And we will be talking shop quite literally, and not just corner shops. Whether you're looking to start a business, have an existing business, or you just want to talk business, we can help.
We can help. We can help. God, yeah. Here we are, back once again. It's a renegade master.
I was actually listening to that song a few weeks ago somewhere.
Really? Ooh. When you were having an unofficial rave?
When I was having a party, yeah.
Ooh. All right. It's funny though, isn't it? Talking about parties, well, it's not funny at all. But the news on the weekend was police raiding a number of premises. And one of them, I believe in Birmingham, was someone had created a makeshift nightclub with 150 people in it.
Well, hey man, good on them, man.
What? That's
Hope
outrageous. Why would you say that?
I
You
hope they
can't say
enjoyed
that,
themselves
Jack.
and had a lot of fun, man. There's no fun in the country. As people forgot how to have fun.
No,
Is
you
that
can't.
illegal
Listen,
as well?
that is ridiculous for you to even say anything like that live on air. Never mind live
I
anywhere.
think, but
It's
Aman, on a serious note, if you think about it, out of 68 million people, come on, not every single people they're just not gonna be able to follow the rules. And people, if they are gonna look, obviously the police is there to monitor and manage these situations, but you can imagine there is these things going on up and down the country because people just
no,
you
but they
can't have.
shouldn't be, should they? That's what I'm saying.
Whether there should be or there shouldn't be, the fact of the matter is there's always going to be because it's a lot of people you're talking about. 68 million people are not going to comply with the government rules that's been set out. It's just not going to happen. So obviously that's why you have the police there to do their job, and they will go and do what they need to do. But I mean, how far do you go? I mean, I went for a walk yesterday, and there was a lady sat on a bench, and it's illegal to sit on the bench. So are you going to go after her as well? And then on the next bench there was someone else, and the next bench there was somebody else, and they were sat there with their coffees on a bench with a dog, just sat there, and that's illegal. So
Sorry,
again,
say that again. What is
there's
illegal?
to sit on a bench, right? Because it's not
Well,
you're not going because you're not
what
going
it
out
is?
for a no, it is, Ammar, because you're not going out for a run, are you? You can only be out if you're going out for a run. So if you sat on a bench, what's your purpose? Do you really need to be out the house to sit on the bench as a part of your daily walk? So
No. Sorry. The law is just for the purposes of clarity because it's dead easy to sort of go, well, this is the law and you can't do this and you can't do that. The law is in regards to meeting other people. So you are allowed, as I understand it, and I might be mistaken here, it's quite easy to be mistaken, but my understanding is you are allowed to meet one other person outside your house
mhm.
and go for either a walk or exercise. If you are meeting somebody else and what you cannot do is sit down.
Well, that's my point. They were sat down.
Yeah, okay, so you can't sit down with other people, but there's nothing to prevent you, for example, as an adult, to go and take your children to a park locally and sit on a bench whilst your children are playing. There's nothing to prevent you from doing that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a different scenario. But on the key side, outside Pitcher and Piano, where they still got some of their outdoor seating still outside, people are sat there, and I think I can't blame them for sat there. They just sat there with their dog and having a cup of coffee. Are the police going to go and deal with that situation? So, I mean, there's a lot of ambiguity at the moment, and yes, we should all do our bit.
I don't.
We should all.
I think people are just frustrated. I think people are angry.
Don't get me wrong, Ammar. I think people should absolutely do their bit and continue to do their bit, follow all the rules. But there's going to be moments where you think, hold on, I'm not harming anybody sat here by myself on the bench. And I just choose to sit down because I'm tired, or I choose to sit down because this is just so normal for me to do. You know, so there are situations like that. And what do you do? What are the public supposed to do? Because, you know, this is like a prolonged lockdown without any sight or any light in the future. And I can feel and see so much frustration amongst people that I speak to. The extreme frustration. And I don't think the government personally, they're gonna be able to continue like this, because as soon as the weather turns, I just think people are just gonna come out more and more and more and more.
Yeah, I must admit. So this week, it was meant to be half term. Well, it is. It's half term week. And I had scheduled in some time to take off, but subsequently haven't managed to do that other than yesterday. And we got out for a little bit locally, went for a drive, and in certain places and spaces. For the last 2 days, the weather hasn't been that bad. We've certainly seen quite a lot of people congregated in quite a lot of places. And I think you will find that more and more and more people will be getting frustrated. I mean, I must admit, there's only so much walking you can really do. And if that is the only thing you can do, then that is a quite challenging in itself. The last weekend, it was Valentine's weekend, and it was interesting because I managed to get to. I had to go to Boots for some stuff, and I had to go to Costco for some stuff. But it's just interesting that the things that you become so accustomed to, so expectant of, are the very things that you cannot do. And it's such a shame. I mean, walking into the metro centre, Jaff, I was almost like in tears. It was so emotional to see the metro centre in such a dire state. And I don't mean physically, I mean by the number of people that were there. I've got pictures of me in the metro centre, in the various malls, in the various spaces, and it's just me.
Yeah, it's tragic.
It was horrible, I say. And going into shops, and actually the metro centre, I can remember it being built, right? So I can actually remember it being built. I can then remember from the point of it being built, spending so much time there whenever we could. You could go and hang out there on a weekend or an evening. There was can you remember the fun fair,
Oh yeah, the Metro Park, wasn't it?
Metro Park. Well, it was right. And it had a roller coaster in it, and it had it went round, and it was just a great place and space, and it was free to get in, and you didn't have to pay anywhere to walk around, and you could just hang out, and then if you were celebrating things like Eid, everybody would head to the metro centre. Everybody get dressed up and go to the adventure park thing, and all of it. It was just like, and the movies, some of the movies that we've watched, and some of the things that we've experienced, I've experienced there. Gosh, I know a number of the people that had set up businesses there over the years, and then closed them down. I know Gavin, who's the manager there, and it's just a great place and space. But to see it in that way that it is, with so little people, it was horrific. And it's just mad that the things that you'd almost go, I can't be bothered going shopping, right? You can see how desperate people are to just break or do something different. The queues at Costco were like to the other end of the car park. It was just like, my God, are they giving things away? And Costco's such an interesting concept. It is amazing. Right? It is amazing. The mentality and their sales approach. I have never been to Costco and spent less than a couple of £100.
Yeah.
Right? And the fact that they display the pilot high, they have discounts, everything's illustrated without VAT, so it looks like so much cheaper. And and I went in there and got like a few things and had come out, spent a few £100, and I looked at it and I thought, what have I bought?
But you're bulk buying though as well, aren't you? You're buying like instead of buying one toilet tissue, you're buying a case of toilet tissue. Yeah, I'm going to buy a case and I'm going to store it, and you know, because just in case there's shortages again, and I have to fight for them.
Yeah.
So it is a brilliant concept, and it's so simple. I just feel when you go to Costco, you get a lot of value for money.
Do you feel that?
I think so, yeah, because
I don't.
I think there's value for money when you compare, not on all things, but on most things, there is value for money. Also, their fruit and vegetables, I think it's pretty good quality in comparison to some of the smaller retailers that there are. I think so. Yeah, I think generally there is decent value for money, because if you were getting some of the spirits and some of the drinks, they are far cheaper there than you could get in other places, and they have some great deals.
Look, if for example you're in a business and you need to go and buy certain consumables and certain products and such like, they are and can be quite competitive, and in fact some of their special offers are really good, and their warranties are particularly good on electrical items, because as I understand it, you can almost take anything you want back within a 2-year period and get a full refund. So, not that I would ever suggest people do this, but you can, you could literally have a laptop for a year. It's a really good laptop. You can take it back and go, I don't want it anymore, and get another one, which is, from a value point of view, from that, on a customer service point of view, it's great. I'm just sharing my own experience, which is that every time I've gone to Costco, it doesn't matter what I've gone for, you can't come out of there without spending at least £100 to £200. So anyway, the point of all of this is and was that people are just desperate to do different things, and if that, because I couldn't think of anything worse than going to Costco on a weekend. If you didn't
now
have
it's like now it's something that you're looking forward to.
It's like people are queuing up, because it's one of the few things that are open. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see what the Prime Minister says on Monday.
Well, let's see what he says, but I don't think there's going to be anything. I don't think he's going to give any dates, and I guess ultimately, from what I can read into the situation, it's going to be all about getting more and more people vaccinated. It's going to be about vaccines. It's going to be a backdoor entry of vaccine passports, which they're going to encourage the private companies to bring in on their behalf. So it's going to be things like that, and they might have some kind of a roadmap, a very, very slow roadmap. But either way, if there's any loosening of the lockdown in any way, shape or form, I think it can only benefit society, because I think they do need to make a serious calculation on the mental well-being of the country, of the nation. I mean, if you love the people of this country, then look at the mental well-being of the people of this country, because I think that's critical. And there's one MP that keeps on talking about it, and it's Charles, I can't remember his surname, and he makes so much sense, that the thing that's been missed out in all of this is the impact. I mean, I've had some personal experiences, Ammar, with individuals that I've met at work, or I've talked to on the phone, and mentally they're really struggling, just because the value of having a network of people, socializing, that must trigger off so many good things in your soul, in your mind, when you meet other people, and that whole social process. And once that's taken away, You can only do so much on Zoom, and it's just not the same, is it? It's something happens on Zoom, you can see them and you can talk to them, but ultimately they're not there, and it's so different when you meet people face to face. So I think people have lost networks, and I think mentally, I personally, from what I can see, I think we're at crossroads, and something needs to be done about that pretty quickly.
Listen, we talked about this briefly last week. In fact, it's a topic that comes up every single week.
Yeah.
Is the well-being and mental health of all of us across the UK and indeed the world. Look, for years, for centuries now, we have come together and we've interacted and engaged, and there's that social interaction, whether it's shaking hands, whether it's hugging someone, whether it's even just talking to someone in a face-to-face environment, is something that we as human beings have. It's part of our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
If you isolate someone, the mental health impact on them is incredible. You just need to look, prisoners of war.
Well, Ammar, I was just about to mention, isn't it imprisoning people effectively?
Yeah. No, but I'm just saying, as in, prisoners of war are isolated. You put into isolated spaces and they come out, and because they've spent so much time in their own head, in their own mind, and it's had such an impact that they are scarred for life.
Mm.
Right? Now, domestic violence, huge increase. Child abuse, huge increase. Anything to do with suicides in farmers. Jeff, 137 suicides in farmers. That was a statistic that I just seen yesterday morning. You know, farmers, as in it's just like suicide in men, like everything, self-harm, right? All of these challenges and issues that are driving a wedge in humanity and society. They are killing people, literally, right?
Mm.
Now, even from a personal point of view, I took yesterday off, and I must admit, I hadn't realized how much I needed to do that. I'm regularly waking up feeling quite anxious, sort of, and it's not because of inherent worrying, but just like because you're almost in that hamster wheel, right?
Mm.
You're worrying about the future, you're thinking about the kids, you're thinking about, are you doing the right things at the right time? Are you, there's all of these competing priorities. So do you look after the business? Do you look after the family? Do you look after the kids? Do you school them? Are you giving everybody enough time? Everybody's in so much demand. It's overwhelming. There's financial worries. All of us are suffering from those. It doesn't take much to start worrying about things, and it can all just build up and build up and build up. So those releases that you would normally get, right, from doing things, i.e., me catching up with you, having a bit of a laugh, it means that I'm getting a break, right? At the minute, each and every one of us isn't getting a break from that inherent and incessant mental sort of place where you're constantly thinking about everything all of the time. It was incredible. I went and like hugged my wife yesterday and said, thank you so much, because I just had a really good day, and we switched off. I never get the chance to switch off. Even on a weekend, we might do something or whatever it is, but you've always got like, oh, I've got work to sort out. Oh, there's that going on. Oh, that property's empty, or I need to think about that financial forecast, and I need to consider these and jobs and people and all of these things. Gosh, the level of responsibility for each and every one of us is incredible. And you're right, something needs to happen.
Mm.
And people need to start just thinking about themselves a little bit. And it's so hard to do that.
I think, look, we have to all work within the framework of the laws that are set out, because at the end of the day, you know, there's nothing that we can do beyond that. But I personally feel that, you know, let's not get, well, me as an individual, I'm not getting too hung up, and I have no hope of the government giving us any good news, because the problem is with hope, it sets, you have that hope, and then you get let down, and then you then suffer from it more. So if they say anything, we'll take it positively, but I don't have any expectations whatsoever. And we need to be able to look after ourselves physically, mentally, financially, without relying on the government for hope or funding or grants or this or that, because you effectively look at it as though that you're on your own and work within that. Because I think if you can do that and make some micro steps moving forward and find your way of interacting socially with friends, whether it's Zooms or whether it's meeting up with different friends, or friend as a different friend that you can do on a different occasion.
कोविड-19 कोरोना वायरस के सिलसिले में हुकूमत की तरफ से आपके लिए ताज़ा तरीन हिदायत। ये निहायत जरूरी है कि हम सब घर पर रहें। हमें सिर्फ इन वजूहात की बिना पर अपने घर से निकलने की इजाजत है। अगर आप किसी की देखभाल करते हैं या किसी के केयरर हैं, वो जरूरी काम जो आप घर से नहीं कर सकते या जरूरी खरीदारी के लिए आप अपने घर से बाहर जा सकते हैं। घरेलू तशद्दुद या कोई जरूरी तिब्बी इमदाद के लिए अगर आप अपने लिए या अपने खानदान के लिए कोई मेडिकल सपोर्ट चाहते हैं तो आपको अपने घर से बाहर जाने की इजाजत है। आप अपने खानदान के अफराद के अलावा किसी दूसरे से अपने या दूसरे के घर पर नहीं मिल सकते। ये इंतहाई जरूरी है कि हम हुकूमत की दी हुई गाइडलाइन से जुड़े रहें और उस पर अमल करें। मजीद मालूमात के लिए आप गवर्नमेंट या NHS की वेबसाइट से राब्ता कर सकते हैं। घर पर रहें, अपनी और दूसरों की जिंदगियां बचाएं, NHS को बचाएं। शुक्रिया।
कोरोना वायरस ਦੇ ਮਸਲੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੀ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਖਬਰਾਂ ਭੇਜੀਆਂ ਆ। ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਆ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਘਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਆ। ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ ਸਿਰਫ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਲਈ ਆ। ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਦੇਖਭਾਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, ਜੋ ਕੰਮ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਘਰ ਤੋਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ, ਜਾਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਸਮਾਨ ਦੁਕਾਨ ਤੋਂ ਲੈਣਾ ਪਿਆ ਜੇ ਡਿਲੀਵਰੀ ਨਾ ਆਈ, ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਮੈਡੀਕਲ ਸਪੋਰਟ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਣਾ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਬੁਲਾਉਣਾ ਮਨਾ, ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਆ ਜੋ ਸਾਡੀ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਨੇ ਭੇਜੀਆਂ ਆ। ਗਾਈਡਲਾਈਨਸ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਰਹੋ। ਹੋਰ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਲਈ ਤੁਸੀਂ gov.uk ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ nhs.uk ਤੇ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ। ਘਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਹੋ, NHS ਦੀ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਕਰੋ ਤੇ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀਆਂ ਬਚਾਓ।
Spice FM 98.8 FM.
Yeah, some community announcements, which will always catch us out, but very important. So, Jeff, we were talking about meeting with friends and friends of friends and friends of friends.
I think just keep your mind positive, keep them stimulated the best that you can, and try and do everything on your own accord. And anything announcements that come that are positive from the government, then that's a bonus. I would have thought that's probably simple and the right way to move forward, rather than hoping for this and hoping for that. Because look, if they let you down, you're just going to be more affected by it. So keep it simple and
Okay, so let's just talk about that type of thing, Jeff. So summer holidays. Right?
I'm going to Bournemouth Beach. Where are you going?
So summer holidays has been a big topic for quite some time, but more so this week. And the debate has been, or is, because one of the ministers had said, well, actually, going abroad is illegal at the minute. Going on holiday is illegal. So booking a holiday is illegal.
Uh-huh.
And apparently that shouldn't have been said. But in any event, that led to a big debate, which is, do you or don't you book a holiday for the summer?
Abroad.
Yes.
If you look at it sensibly, Ammar, I would have said no.
Well,
but
why? How's that sensible?
Because if it's illegal, then what are you going to book it for? Is it going to all of a sudden be...
It's not illegal to book a holiday. You just can't go on holiday whilst you're in a
What's the
lockdown.
point of booking your holiday? Are you going to get your money back from the travel company?
Well, apparently you will.
I don't know. I think
there's a risk involved.
I
mean,
I don't know. I don't know about holidays. If there's a global pandemic, why do you want to leave the country for?
Listen, if I could go on holiday today, right? If it wasn't illegal, I'd be on a plane. I'd pawn everything that I've got, right? I'd scrimp and save just to get on a plane and be sat in the sun somewhere next to a pool.
Well, of course, I think it's a nice thought. But if you did go to most places, when you come back, you have to spend another 1,750 quid. Times that by 4, man. You need to spend another 7 grand just to get back into the country.
No, obviously, I couldn't afford to do that. I'm just saying, if someone had turned around and said you can go on holiday. So my point is this, right? It's actually, we always book our holidays in advance wherever we can, so we can afford to pay them over a longer period of time. And rest assured, the cost of a holiday, excuse me, is going to go up quite significantly. And in fact, there are already flights to like...
I don't know if I'm allowed to get the phone live on there, because if I don't get it, I don't think they're going to stop it.
Well, in which case, put yourself on mute if you're going to go.
Right, let me do that for a second. You talk away.
I'm going to talk away. Well, I don't know why I'm going to talk away at myself. But let's see if I can do something unique and play some music. I do need to share something really interesting with our viewers and listeners. But look, one thing you know for certain, this is a live show. There are people like Jalf running a live business, trying to do whatever he can, and must admit and admire Jalf in his endeavour, where actually nothing will come between him and customer service. And as you can probably tell, I'm sat here as well in a business centre that's supporting some of the most critical businesses here in the Northeast, and hence the need for me to be here physically, because I am have implemented full COVID secure environments. We, in the business centre, everybody wears a mask. In any of the communal areas, we have hand gel everywhere, and in each of the office space, where there is more than one person, we've restricted that so that there isn't any cross-contamination and such like. So anyway, the point of me sharing all of this is business, as Jaf's point around trying to control the controllables. It's really important to control what you can and try and support what you cannot. So your family, get a routine. It's absolutely critical to have a set routine. As you can see, every single work day, I will get up between 4:30, 5 this week. Because it was half term, I'd even decided not to set the alarm. And it's so interesting because yesterday, Jaf, I tried to take a day. Well, I did take a day off. I tried to take a day off, and I turned the alarm off, right? Because I thought, like on Wednesday night, I stayed up quite late, and I turned the alarm off, and I was wide awake at 4:30, which meant I'd had about sort of 5 hours sleep, and I was like, I need to go back to sleep. I need to go back to sleep. I need to go back to sleep, and I lay there for an hour and a half, trying to go back to sleep, and it was horrible. I wasted an hour and a half. I was so upset at that. Anyway, got up, and it's so interesting, the routine part. But I must admit, I feel so much better for the days when I wake up, because I wake up quite naturally, and I'll just get out of bed and I'll do some work, and I'll do my workout. I'll do my workout 5 days a week, and I'll get ready and I'll put a suit on, and that all of those things genuinely contribute to my health and well-being. Because if I didn't do that, I know I would be in a very difficult and different space, even though I've sat here and admitted and acknowledged the challenges that I'm having, the mental health problems that we're all experiencing. So imagine if you didn't have that. So what I was saying, Jalf, is routine is critical. So the fact that you continuing with your businesses, from hell or high water, whatever's going on, you're there. You're providing that consistent and constant customer service. You're answering the phone. I think it's fantastic that you always put your customers first, even when that goes against me.
Well, look, Ammar, I guess we're built in certain ways, and we have to really dig a bit harder and fight a little bit harder, because everyone's livelihoods are effectively on the line, and at the moment, we've got to battle until the end and do what we can. So I think everyone has to be up for the fight, because when times are tough, that's the times when the, what do they say, the tough, when the tough get going, or whatever that line is. I remember it was used, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So we have to really be very, very extra focused and be extra determined, and go out of our way on trying to manage our businesses, regardless of how difficult they are. Because if you have a setup that was working, we have to adapt in this climate and make it happen. We don't have any other choices.
And you're absolutely right. I think I've admitted live that a certain part, so property business is just on its knees. It is horrible, because part of my property business is international students. Where are students and where's international? And if I was reliant on that exclusively, I'd be in a real pickle. But the other areas, I must admit, the demand is outstripping the supply. So I'm delighted to say that we've recruited 3 people in the last week, and that's quite interesting, Jalf, in the current climate. And one of them, we done all of the sort of COVID secure type of things and whatever else. And as I was sharing with listeners and viewers, we all were sort of masks in the any communal areas and things like that. But I was like, I actually went like this to someone, and we had the masks on, and we were socially distancing, and we've got screens and everything up. But I disinfected my hands, and I said to this young gentleman, I said, I'm going to do something that you probably haven't done for a very long time. And you could see on his face the almost sort of anxiety and shock, like, oh my God, what's he going to do? I've just started, I've just come in to pick up some equipment and have a socially distant chat with my employer. And I put my hand out and I shook his hand.
But is that allowed, though, or not?
Don't know. Maybe I'm going to get arrested.
I guess someone shook my hand, right? And I was in town, and he stuck his hand out. I had to shake it. So all I did was I made sure that I didn't tell him this, but I made sure that I didn't touch my nose, touch my face, touch my eyes. Went into one of the restaurants, washed my hands for 20 seconds, sang happy birthday twice, and I felt that in any potential virus is gone anyway.
Oh no, well, we walk around with these, as in I actually went like this to him, put that in his hand, put that in my hand. We had our masks on. We were stood quite some distance apart, and that's what I done. So I said, I'm going to do something, because for me, what's really important is, regardless of whatever this, right, I need to make sure that the team feels as if they're part of something. And whilst we're working, you know, we're fully subscribed to the government's guidelines as well as the law. I thought it was really important that I actually shook his hand on his first day and reinforced the importance of isolation. Look, yeah, we're all in bubbles, right? So the only people I see is my wife and my children, and that's it. I'll come to work, and the reason why I come to work is twofold. One, because I only have one office at home, and the wife is using it, and so I couldn't share that office. Secondly, you can't run a business centre that supports and has so many critical businesses virtually. It's a physical centre, so we've got businesses coming in here. However, we are fully prescribed. You know, I come through the door, I sit here at the desk, we'll do some activities that can only happen here physically, and then primarily I'll be sat here all day, and then I'll get up and I'll go in any communal area, any facilities that we use. We've got Dettol spray everywhere. We've got cleaners coming in all of the time. Everybody, we've got hand gel everywhere that anyone uses, and if there's any communal sort of areas and facilities, everybody is that. So you know, what's really important is that as a business center, we don't just think about ourselves and our family. We think about the other people here. So you know, the team that have been, those that can work from home. So I've got about 3 staff who are working from home because they can, and the systems that they use allow them to. But you know, having a lot of what we do is manual stuff on behalf of our customers and such like, and we need to physically be here to answer phones and support businesses. And we're delivering probably about 7 different business support programs now, and it's just interesting because we continue to make sure that everybody here is in a bubble and feels safe and secure, because it's equally important that their families are protected as well.
Of course, of course.
And not one person is expected to come in here if they feel uncomfortable in doing so. You know,
that's, of course, and that's a responsible thing to do. And you know, it's adapting and it's obviously understanding everything and taking all the kind of checks and all the procedures, following all the procedures, doing all the checks, and making sure everyone is following them. And I think one thing I have noticed, Ammar, in a working environment, you know, like go back a year before the pandemic, during the winter seasons, you would often, it would be natural for people to come in with a cough, a little bit of a cough and a little bit of a sneeze. And that's just something that we accepted in the workplace and we didn't think too much about it. I think one thing I've noticed, which is really significant, there is no one that's coughing. There is no one that is sneezing. And if you have an odd sneeze, which could be a dust-related sneeze or whatever it may be, and everyone can sneeze every now and then, that's just normal, natural. It's interesting how everyone is very, very cautious about the wanting to sneeze. They would go outside if they've got an opportunity, or they would go well away from everybody else. So I think there are these type of things that everyone is responsibly taken on board, which would significantly make the working environment so much safer, because everyone's learned a lot more about COVID and what to do about it. So I think I've seen that responsibility from staff and guests alike across the board. And I'm sure that will be the case everywhere, Ammar, I would have thought.
Well, undoubtedly. Well, I mean, there's a whole range of statistics, Jack, that talk about the massive reduction in even the flu virus. We have never experienced such a reduction in any general viruses as we have done so over this autumn and winter, right? So other than the coronavirus, all other viruses have done this because we're not socializing, we're not meeting, we've increased all of the...
yeah, but are they not just coronaviruses though? I would have thought it's just a form of, it's just, I don't know. The flu is the flu, isn't it? You can't have two different types of flus, can you? You can't have the normal flu and the coronavirus flu at the same time, can you? I don't know. I just would have thought that the flu is just the coronavirus.
The flu is a virus. The point is, they were preparing, so the NHS was preparing to be overwhelmed on the back of the number of people that come into the hospital on the back of flu-related symptoms, and then consequently the fact that doctors, GPs, all of these primary care trusts and primary care providers have seen such a significant reduction. It's a big deal in any event, and it's a great thing. And hopefully, if it leads to better and more enhanced hygiene, generally speaking,
absolutely,
that's a wonderful thing to experience. It's just a shame if that then prevents people from that social and physical interaction. But I can understand that, right? It's a price worth paying if it means people aren't going to die. I'm not just talking about myself. I'm talking about other people and such like. Excuse me. Just talking a bit more about death and COVID and such like. When we're about to hit 17 million people from a vaccination point of view, Jeff, and I think it's wonderful, genuinely, to see so many people being vaccinated. The challenge still remains within the minority ethnic communities where there is vaccine hesitancy or a reluctance to get the vaccine and the suspicion and such like. And talking publicly, whilst I may have had initially certain apprehensions or certainly felt like, oh, is it the right thing to do? What happens if I take it and it does this and all of those type of things? On balance, my personal view and advice to everybody now is get the vaccine. I genuinely believe it is the right and the most important thing that any of us can do. And my thinking behind that is, well, look, we're all going to die anyway, right? at some point. That's a given. However, we're far more likely to die statistically from contracting COVID than having the vaccine and not getting it.
Yeah, but Amal, the vaccine doesn't give you 100% guarantee that you're not going to get COVID. And that's what doesn't make sense. I think there is hesitancy, and I think the hesitancy is normal, because if you think about it, how can you introduce something like a vaccine and expect every single person to have the uptake on it out of 68 million people? If it were so, of course, everyone's going to have their own standpoint on it. But if the vaccine, and again, this is just a counter argument, let's play devil's advocate to what you've said. If the vaccine is so brilliant, and I know lots of people that have had the vaccine within the family, my mother, sister-in-laws, but
Have they had it?
Yeah, and you know, look, I'm thankful that they're all okay, that they haven't had any. They've all had some little issues in terms of, you know, a few days into it, where they had pain, they had aches, and they had headaches, and this, that, and the other. But thankfully they've got over that. But the thing is, if the vaccine is so brilliant, because it's such a big thing that you're wanting us to put into our bodies, then I don't get why the laws were recently changed where the vaccine companies have been exempt from any type of legal challenges if something goes horribly wrong with a particular individual. Like, it's a bit like if we serve someone some food and we're not careful, we've put something in there that's had a really bad impact or an effect on somebody else. We're going to be made accountable. So similarly, why are the big pharma, are they exempt from being challenged from a legal perspective? And why have they been given that indemnity? Would be my question, because that's something that would be quite worrying. So I think people look into things like that and they don't quite get it. If you think about it logically, it doesn't make sense, because if the vaccine is so brilliant, then excellent. We all want to have it, and it's going to change society and get everybody out. I also believe that it's discriminatory if someone that doesn't have the vaccine, that if you discriminate against them, that they can't come out to society and they can't do all the things that everyone should have the right to do. I think that's also wrong, and I think we're going to be leading down that path. And I think that's not how world and countries should be run. That, oh well, we're going to discriminate against this person because they haven't had a vaccine, that they may not like needles, or they may have some things. I mean, there's talks about women and whether they're able to have kids if they have a vaccine. Well, what kind of a vaccine would take away the ability of women being able to have children?
Yeah, it's been, listen, so just on that point, the subsequent tests that have taken place have highlighted that there isn't an issue.
But I'm not in which one though, and how long, and how, I mean, there's 4 different vaccines, right? And if the manufacturers have suggested or recommended that you have the Pfizer vaccine, you have the first shot, and within 3 weeks you have the second shot. Now, if the government changes that and says that, okay, well, we're not able to do it until 3 months later, is it as effective? Because you're going against what the manufacturer have set out. So again, you know, there's so many things that are, there's always going to be so many question marks, but ultimately though, I think everyone should have, like they set up in the Nuremberg courts, that it's still up to the individual. It's their decision, and it shouldn't be forced upon anybody, and it shouldn't be mandatory that everyone must have the vaccine, because they should have the right to say no.
And look, and I agree. Lots of people choose not to have the flu vaccine and things like that. Anyway, I was just sharing my view
And I'm just giving you the alternative view, that's all.
And I appreciate and respect that. There's always going to be, that's why we live in a society in such a way, in such a place where there are different views, and it's great that there are. For me, just to respond on a couple of points that you made, one on liability, if it's such a good vaccine, well, look, we've rushed through a vaccine that would normally take years, 5-10 years to make. So naturally, we don't know what we don't know. And the only way that we were going to be able to get this to market was to provide some limited protection. The second thing is it isn't 100%, but it certainly has demonstrated at least 2/3 of those people that have had the vaccine, and that's only because that's how many they've managed to follow up with them on, but at least 2/3 of the people are protected from COVID and protected from giving it to anybody else or being a carrier. So that's a big deal, particularly if you have older people in your household or vulnerable people. And you know, and we know that Black and Asian and minority ethnic people are far more susceptible. In fact, we're 3 times more likely to die than white people, which is an interesting statistic, and we can unpick that at a later stage. Anyway, for the last few seconds, some positive news, get something focused on. The Curry Club returns next Thursday night. We're going to see Chef Federico with a dish.
Your only Bollywood station in Newcastle.
I think that's our cue there, right there.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me and goodbye from me.
COVID jams.
Stay safe. Stay home.
Meeting today. There are still 130 nations yet